start.
We do members.
Rob on.
2 minutes he's here.
We just do it members
With the members report. So what I'm going to do is we'll deal with item 3.5 members reports. We'll then move to exclude the public. We will consider the minutes, and then we will go straight into a session with Paul Luke, who is the additional item that has been added to our agenda. But obviously, Paul's waiting for us to get in here, and I think it's important that we deal with that. So that's what I propose to do, if that's okay. Okay. So we deal with 3.5. I have two points. One, I'd just like to check that Carl is around and come on screen, that it's great. And Gary has asked for consideration of chairing under COVID conditions. Are there any other matters that you just want to raise at this point? There's been none. Carl, are you there, please? No, Carl's not there.
He's serious, he's just done meeting.
Yes, I am.
Hey, Carl, how are you, mate? Look,
Very good evening, top there.
I wanted to spring on you, and I don't want to put you in a position that you can't. But can you just indicate what is the planning cycle for the audits for the coming year? And one of the things I'm very conscious of this year for council is that we're in an election year, and it will be interesting to know, where does Teams Coromandel figure in that priority list? Will we have a chance to be signed before the 8th of October or post 8th of October?
Chair, we started off thinking about that, and we asked the question to council, and I don't want to put Hayden in too much hot water. He said he'd still discuss it with Donna, but I think the aim was to sign after the 8th of October. so that's what we're planning towards.
You're aiming towards the 8th of October?
No, after the 8th of October, Chair.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Members, I just think that means, look, I'm speaking to Carl, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the audit universe is still stretched for resources. We talked about our own resourcing. Yeah. Murray, going back to your 2 meetings to go, I think at that second meeting I've asked Donna to consider what we should, as the outgoing committee, leave for the incoming council. You'll recall, amongst other things, that there are letters of representation that need to be signed. There are things like we've maintained our controls, we've maintained and concern for fraud, and blah, 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 blah. Very difficult to ask new council, albeit that a good number of you, I suspect, will still be around the table to sign that one off. So I think as a committee, we should just consider, and I'm perhaps also noting this for you, Carl and Donna, that we consider that matter at whatever that second away or that last meeting at the Triennium is, so that we've got that one right. Think of that, Carl. Good move. Appreciate that. It's good. Always good to have you here, man.
Thanks, Jay. Sorry that I can't be there physically.
That's fine, mate. Let's deal with the issue of chairing the meetings under the current conditions. Gary, do you need to speak to this?
Yes, well, I was alerted when I wasn't physically at the last Board of Risk, but I was by audio link. And when I looked and refreshed my memory on page 4, I think I might have missed about you. I saw you on the audio visual, but Tony was chairing, and that was because of 1310 of the standing orders. Now, it seems to me it was creative what's happened in regard to allowing the mayor to chair last council's meeting. The amendment that came in from Internal Affairs was sensibly to allow people to attend via audio or visual link to meet quorum requirements. And of course, what we have is that under the Local Government Act, there are provisions, and now we have, of course, the mayor can attend as an absolute right by audio or visual link and can be counted present for quorum under clause 23. But clause 26 of the Local Government Act talks of being present And if the mayor or a chair is present at a meeting, they must preside.
Yeah.
And I have run this past a few people. I think so has Murray, even though I came up with it, and I have run it past Ken Palmer, and he thinks that it's a pretty fudged grey area, and it's something that he was surprised that it happened. So all I'm saying is I'm just concerned because that seems to be, quite frankly, a way to avoid the mandate. And I don't think that's.
Thank you, Gary. A couple of things, especially just stating on my position. I'd just like to reflect back to that last meeting. That was in different conditions to both where the council was at in terms of its position, in terms of response to the COVID pandemic. Secondly, that was a decision on my part not to come. And I requested council accept that from my personal position, I wasn't prepared to travel at that stage of the meeting. Two reasons. One, I wasn't fully vaccinated, no fault of my own, but actually just when my lot came up. And so consequently, it was at that stage still pretty consistent that while I would attend by way of video, I asked Tony to chair. So the circumstances, one, that was a voluntary request on my part to have the not to physically attend. Right, things have changed a bit since then. So Rob, are you able to help us here, please?
Oh, I can, yes, I can, but basically with the epidemic notice in place.
Question first, can we put 13.10 up on the, so everyone knows, because I don't know everyone knows what we're talking about, do you?
He read it out.
Sorry, have you read 13.10?
Gary read it out, didn't he?
No, you didn't bring up. Okay, yeah, we'll have it.
It's 13 to read two. Standing orders. Well, it's two. There's two paragraphs in standing orders at Fernandes, 10 and 13, and the local government act in 26.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically legislation overrules standing orders, and that's what the epidemic notice did. So we took the interpretation that regardless of who's where, online, all councillors and the mayor are able to attend. Clause 26.1 provides that the mayor must preside. So when you read that in conjunction with amendments 25A and 25B of the epidemic preparedness notice, it is, we believe it's correct that the mayor can chair online. So that is our legal position. And we don't see an issue with either the last meeting or whether anybody decides to chair online.
Yes, Mark.
So can we have that circulated to us? Because we get a lot of crap as councillors. If we go back to the question, 4 armed, 4 warned is 4 armed. And I'm not debating whether the mayor can chair it or not, and that's not my debate. My debate is when someone asks me, and it's standing orders, I should be able to look and I should be able to give them an answer. And we have not been consistent. You couldn't come. We appointed Tony, and at the head of these minutes, it's under 13.10.
The conditions are different. There was no mandate. There was no decision around how business would be conducted.
Well,
at that stage.
That's what it's been.
That's only my point, Murray.
Yeah, and I accept that, but to me, it appears different. I'm prepared to accept the explanation. That's absolutely fine. But what I want to know is when someone asks me, I'm not flat-footed, so that I can answer the question and say quite legitimately, this is the rule, this is what happens. Because we get the media and everyone asks us, whether we like it or not, we do. And one thing I hate being is flat-footed, and that's what I ask.
Sorry, John, then Sarah.
Thanks, Bruce.
Not me.
Just thought I'd remind you I am still here. Listen, I've listened to the discussion. Bruce, that was a great explanation as to why you weren't chairing. Rob, your explanation of the Local Government Act and whatever helped clarify it a lot. But I'll cut straight to the chase. We are operating under COVID regulations, and they do take precedence over standing orders, what have you. And I'll be quite blunt. I believe this is an effort to take the mayor out of the picture. Gary himself has said it's a grey area. To me, it's pretty much black and white. The COVID regulations take precedence, the mayor can be present by Zoom, as can any other councillor. I have no doubt at all that she can chair the meeting from Zoom. I don't need a legal opinion, but if you want to get one, that's fine, and maybe we should, just to be safe. But I believe that this is just an attempt to take the mayor out of the picture.
The wording in the COVID regulation is amendments to enable council meetings via audio or visual link to meet quorum requirements regardless of council standing orders. To meet quorum requirements.
She can be present by way of Zoom.
Yep, to meet
Very
quorum
clear.
requirements.
Okay.
Clause 26(1), the mayor must have presided. So if she's allowed to attend online, she must preside.
Well, I don't know if that's correct.
Well, that's the legal position we've taken.
Can I ask for what point? I mean, let's get back to the John's pragmatism here. For what point?
So
You know,
the point is what we want to know, did we have a meeting outside standing orders, which we need to pay regularly, correct?
Yeah.
Or not?
yes.
That's the bottom line point.
Yeah.
And I take exception to, we did not have the local government stuff in front of us. We can only read standing orders. It's not a witch hunt. This is not a witch hunt. This is trying to get it sorted so we are very good governors.
Hello, firstly Sandra, then Tony, then Terry. I think was probably the final round of comments, please.
Okay, so if this was an outstanding question, this could have been resolved if the parties that were aware of this as being a matter of concern could have approached the CE or the governance manager or yourself even, Bruce, for clarification on this point. If there's a grey area, we will need to get legal advice, because how else can we satisfy that concern? And you'll need time to do that. So I don't think that the matter is going to be resolved today. If it can be resolved today, that's fine. But unless if there's going to be a continued difference of opinion about the legal interpretation, then we need to get an independent legal opinion on this matter.
I think you're right.
I think you're right. The standing orders, we've got to comply with standing.
Do we
Taking a legal approach to what is a very simple, pragmatic issue. So, but again, that's your call.
Tony, then Terry?
Yeah, for me, I don't see a message. If, for whatever reason, if we were not in compliance with standing orders, I don't see that as being a major issue, because we just simply say we acknowledge that the meeting was held and for these reasons, and that's the end of it, because we make decisions that are not covered by the revenue and finance policy, for instance. We simply note that in a resolution to say this decision is made outside of the revenue and finance policy for these reasons. So for this thing here, if we just go to our standing orders, and I have my interpretation under standing orders, not local government, because I run the local standing orders, I think 1313 has a slightly different thing. But I just noted that we recognise that's what we did.
Right.
And this is the reason we did it, because we are now under COVID legislation, and that's the end of it. And so rather than have the public ringing us up and say, well, when I read the standing orders, I don't think you were right. Now, whether we were right or wrong, I don't care about. I just think we acknowledge, if under standing orders, not LGA, we just simply record that at the next council meeting, or here at council, just to put our hands up and agree with it and move on.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Tony, Terry?
Yeah, my just statement is that I feel around this table, a chair at the meeting works better than a chair off the meeting. And we're sitting around the table, most of us are here, it just works better. I've sat at home and done Zoom online and all the rest of it. The chair at the table makes the meeting work better. So have it that way. It seems to work better for me.
Right, looks like we're going around the table. And then Martin, either you have questions, not no, you're fine, Rob. Martin?
Yeah, I'm looking at the COVID-19 response urgent management measures legislation at the moment, and it specifically doesn't say anything about whether a person can chair remotely. I suspect that if they had wanted, the people passing this had wanted it to say, yes, you can attend, but you can't chair, they would have put it in the legislation. They haven't, therefore standing orders should still apply, and
I feel like what Rob has said has made sense. You know, there's the standing orders and then there's legislation on top of it. Why are we even talking about this? Do we need to vote it to get it off the table so that everybody can be happy?
I'm going to propose that what we do now is that, Rob, I'd ask you please to, in the way that Murray suggested, that we could please have a clear statement as to how we interpreted.
Yes, I think.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
You may want to put it in from as your legal advisor on, and that we take it from there. I would have also slightly standing on a wee bit of process here. I agree with Sandra. Why is it taking a formal raising of the matter in a meeting? And in fact, we could have solved this earlier.
I raised it by, you were copied it.
I know.
I raised
I feel like we are trying to trip ourselves up in jump hurdles we don't need to jump.
Well, don't say something that's not correct. I raised it some days ago.
Yes, and I think equally, it could have been dealt with in that process rather than necessarily being brought up to us.
Well, I came up with what I'd been advised. He came up with it, whatever he had, and I don't agree.
Right. I don't want to get trapped too further in this. I think what we will do is, rather than if I could invite you to do that, I don't think we need a resolution. It will give us a sense of where we're at, and I'll leave you folk to move it from there. That's okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it. Right, with that, I'll just move from the chair that we receive the members' reports. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Sally. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? It's carried. Thank you. Can I please move to the resolution to exclude?
We haven't had members' reports yet. We haven't done members' reports yet, haven't we?
I'm sorry, I asked the members had any matters they wanted to raise and nobody put.
No, I thought we were around individually. I thought you were.
Sorry, I was trying to be super efficient. Technical local government, but sorry, so we won't, have you got a point you'd like to raise?
Well, for my members' report,
Yes.
well, I suppose I'm like others, I might have one.
I've got a,
Okay, I was too off on that. Can I, come here, I invite you to start.
Well,
You've got a report you'd like to say, I can start with you.
Okay, we start with me. The issues that I really have were raised at our community board meeting yesterday, and I'm satisfied they're facts. But basically, for me, it was a lot of things going on where I am in Macquarie Bay. And it's not necessary, there's a lot of projects in the air, and the feedback from those is not necessary. I feel we're in a bit of a void with getting information. So when constituents ask you something, I can't give an update on where the progress is. That is fixed. But the issue I have is that I think we should all be aware of is the impact COVID is having on businesses and then individuals. Because in my neck of the woods, where I guess the majority of the hospitality businesses in the Temple district reside, there are many that can't open because they can't get staff for one reason or another. And with that, there are many people that are on payrolls that are now on subsidies of some sort or whatever, and there are businesses that are shutting, and some of them will shut for good. So from us, from a rating point of view and other revenues point of view, I think we just need to be cognizant of the fact that we have something to consider, and consider pretty sincerely when we get to our next planning sessions, because it is very real, and it's, yeah, there's a major impact in our town, albeit the ones that are working good, but a lot have failed, and there's a lot of hurt out there. So that was me.
Things that I take it on at this stage, we've seen nothing into or Haven in terms of rate debtors at this point. We still seem to be tracking. I know we're tracking okay, but have we had an increase in non-payment?
No, Chair, no, we've actually seen quite good.
Yeah. So would take a very good point about actually for planning reasons. So maybe that actually is the stays longer advice. Sally, going around the group? No. Anything else, Gary? No. Martin?
Yeah, a lot of, we've had a few discussions around the solid waste contract, particularly around the operation of the RTS. And yeah, I know there's been a workshop, and it was mentioned in the last council meeting as well. I just kind of feel that we've got we've got deadlines coming up for contracts being awarded. And I don't think I'd done enough last year to try to get this raised early enough. And yeah, I know a number of members have got concerns around how involvement of local community groups in the operation of the RTS may just end up becoming well, it's too hard to do under health and safety or too hard to do under risk. And yeah, that does concern me. I completely feel for staff who are trying to, reduce risk for council, but yeah, I feel this is quite an important issue. The other thing, it does sort of seem that there's government funding being scaled back. I'm sure that's not news to anyone, but with the Mercury Bay Resource Centre potentially funding for that being scaled back or reviewed, looked at. We've had Waka Kotahi reduce money. That sort of seems to me a real risk for the organisation if we're, relying upon money. So maybe in fact we should be trying to avoid entering into any extra funding stuff from government because whether that's going to end up just being scaled back or cut altogether. So yeah, that seems to me a real risk.
Agreed, and it's something that our should this is reasonably important. I'll let you to talk first about the RTS contract. That's I'm entirely aware of the issue, but between the two, yeah, already got it in. Rob, is anything?
I didn't have anything until you said something before, Bruce.
Yeah,
well, it was just that you were, saying, was this forum the correct place to air our dirty laundry, let's put it that way. And I think that there's also a risk to having conversations on email because it's very hard to understand the nuances of conversation when you're looking at a line of text, particularly if you've been a bit busy and your phone pings and you look at something and maybe you're in the middle of dealing with some other sort of crisis and then you're left with an impression that may not be true. And so it occurs to me that maybe we should be maximising the time that we use here. And I know that it's not always absolutely easy to know that you can set yourself aside between 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock, which is when our meetings are in our calendars for. But that should be, at least a minimum that you should be able to stay and have lunch with your colleagues so that we can air that sort of thing while you're having one of our lovely lunches rather than trying to sort things out by email because it just does not work as a good communication tool. So those are my 2 cents. John, I'll say good.
Just a couple of quick ones, yes. First of all, I've been very interested in the Three Waters working group that's in down Doug Martin's running. He's got an email yesterday, I read this morning, that they're typing the regional representative group on board. They're allowing a lot more locally focused groups get involved, so they're trying to spread the information down the line. And what's the third one there? The co-governance. They had a full conversation around co-governance. They're still working on that, but this comes all out at the end of this month. I think it's all got to be sort of put into a package. So it'd be interesting to see what's going on there. We did an advert in the local paper with the Three Waters and got a lot of good feedback from it. So it was really good. The council put that together. So it was fantastic. The other one I want to talk about really is because with the audit and risk is the capital works program. Really concerned about where we're going with that. That's what really the ratepayers want to see. That's where their money goes. So I want to focus on that going forward. And as Martin said, the solid waste will become one of our key issues, and we want to certainly get some community involvement in that coming forward and get some really good recovery and savings. So,
can I make it just a point about that? Because Terry, you referred to that ad. This is the Our Water, Our Assets Hands-Off ad.
Yeah.
So that was, you put that in yourself.
We paid for it.
Yeah. So that was not, the council wrote the wording. We couldn't agree on it. You personally paid for the ad.
Yeah, council wrote the wording. We paid.
The same.
And I can endorse that. The feedback we had was high.
Really good feedback.
But it's not an official council position.
No, it's our personal position.
Right.
We paid for it.
Can I read anything like the rest?
No, I haven't got anything.
Senator, is there anything like the rest at this point?
Well, I will actually. So, first of all, I have to say I'd share the same concern about Terry about us being able to achieve the capital works program, but there's a variety of reasons around that. The one thing I'd really like to do is do a big shout out to Brian Taylor, and because I've been working with Brian, quite a long time now, but he just resolves so many issues that I bring to him from constituents around consent applications and planning. And so I'm just really appreciative, and I just want to do that shout out for him, because it's a bigger part of our business that just stays on the down low, and he just quietly gets on with his staff to resolve all these different outstanding issues, which are incredibly important to us. So just like to thank you, Brian.
Here, here. Agree. Does a lot of work for me too.
I'm not sure whether we need to name him. I'm not sure.
Thank you for that, Sandra.
Do we need to name him Mr. Fix-It or the Fixer?
Yes, it's great. Yes. John, is there anything you'd like to raise there?
No, we're a box of fluffy ducks, Bruce.
Box of fluffy ducks. You would be if you're in London, I'm sure. Okay, right. Okay, I don't have anything to add to that. Thank you. So, even though it's slightly, slightly in front of the procedure, we have actually received the members' reports. I think there's a need to revisit that. Can I please ask you to go to page 2 of the consideration of your agendas, which is the request, or sorry, the proposal to exclude public and for the next session. There is, of course, as we agreed at the start of the meeting, an additional item, which I will take nearly first after the minutes, which is dealing with the chief executive vacancy, which also, for reasons which I've accepted, should be part of this motion. I'd like to move that we go with public excluded. Do I have a second, please? Thank you, Scott. Is there any discussion on the motion? Being done, I'll put it. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? It's carried. Thank you very much. Right.